Hey.
Hi.
What's up, everyone? My name's Tico.
I'm Karma.
And we're going live.
Here we go. What's going? Well, hi.
Hello.
So anyways, what are Sundays made for? Church?
Church.
No. Church is one way to spend your Sunday.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can spend your Sunday.
So anyways, what's the plan today, boss?
So today we are going to dip into sociosexuality. We are going into the culture, I would safely say that is occurring right now in our society.
So what's the culture?
So sociosexuality is the sexuality of being kind of fluid. It's
so
not,
say it again.
It's sociosexuality is your feelings and your sexuality and your orientation towards sex within society. So when we talk about sociosexuality, it's kind of like the hookup culture where sex is unrestricted, and that response is kind of based on the fact that you don't really necessarily have to form emotions with your sexual partners. It's just more...
So you're calling this the hookup culture.
It's definitely...
But you're also calling it another term? What is it called?
Sociosexuality.
So sociosexuality. Where did you get this term? Did you make this shit up?
Nope, I did
I think you made it up.
Yep.
Did you tag me in this? Are my people here?
Let's get you set up. That's Windows.
That's share, that's bring.
Oh.
Tag friends, what the hell? Alright, that's some bullshit. Okay, so anyway. So we decided that we would do this series together because I think we have similar thought processes when it comes to our ideas of sexuality. And it's kind of interesting to be able to discuss this with you because I don't think it's addressed enough, right?
It's not.
I think so. So in my experiences as a life coach and as a psychic, a lot of the times people come to me with questions about their relationships and stuff. And so people come to me about relationship questions all the time. And what I personally have discovered is that we don't really have a dating culture anymore.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It's really not.
There's no dating. Like people say, oh, I'm dating. And I always ask, well, what the fuck do you mean by dating? Because what's true is, are y'all just fucking? Or are you guys dating?
Dating, yeah. Because, what exactly is dating
right.
nowadays?
And so we had that conversation about like what dating looks like and what nowadays. So back in the day, let's talk about that first. So our expectations were they hold the door.
I still hold the door.
What we expect to be taken to dinner, and we meet the parents, and we date a little while before sex happens, right? And then we have these expectations of behavior. And what ends up happening is people say they want to date, and then they end up doing the hookup thing, and that confuses things. And they're not talking about what their sexual behavior is like with other people. Because when we had this conversation last time, I put that link in there about called the... Ethical Slut, remember that? Which talks about being open and discussing what you're doing so that you have consent. Because that was one of the things we talked about was consent doesn't just have to do with sex. It has to do with whether you're participating in what way with that relationship. Consent. Like maybe, you're still married and going through a divorce, but you're out dating because it's been 2 years since you wrapped up your paperwork.
Yeah.
But now I need to decide whether I want to step into that environment in general.
Yeah.
So consent has a little bit more to do with that than anything. And why am I not live on here?
Consent definitely has a lot to do with it. So hookup culture, just to throw out some general definitions. So hookup culture is, and these, by the way, are professional terms that I'm using. So I will eventually go throughout the time here and kind of soften things up. However, they're just one-time sexual encounters between two individuals who do not know each other at a deep emotional level.
It's always a one-time thing? Because I don't think so. I think hookup culture comes from both. I'm going to have to leave this and start all over. So keep talking.
No,
We're going to start him back over. My YouTube is stuck, so give me a second. So, is hookup culture only...
a one-time hookup?
No, I don't think hookup culture is just a one-time hookup, because that's how you end up in the damn situationships.
That's true.
So, I'm just saying.
So, when we're talking about hooking up, we're just, I mean, it is what it is. You know, you were in the mood, and usually a lot of this stuff tends to be impulsive. Sometimes it's not. However, you end up just, you know, having a friend that, you know, or somebody you meet at the bar or whatever you end up sleeping with. Same thing. Friends with benefits. So this is somebody where you guys share things in common. What I'm finding out now with today's sexuality and starting to notice that things don't necessarily have to be in common either. It's just maybe the commonality between each other in the relationship is just sex. And that's part of that sociosexuality that I've been kind of wanting to touch on, where it really is just, you know, you're there for the strict physical purpose, which would just be to hook up. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that this isn't just an American culture thing, because I get these questions from clients from all over the world. I have a woman from Dubai who has this connected individual where she has to dissect like who he's with and what he's doing. Hi guys, I'm Karma and this is Tico. We're rebooting my my YouTube, guys. So I'm Karma Steele with Karma on Deck, for those of you that don't know me. And this is Tico Pringle of Lucid Dreams, and he's got a coaching program. And so during what we were talking about with the coaching program, we're kind of talking about what it brings to the table, but it also is important to know like what is affecting some of the challenges with the coaching, because it's all about the total person. Yeah. Right. So, and it's also your social environment, and this is what we're dealing with, right? It is. Sorry guys. Hi Leona. So we are coming a little late to this. We had already started the discussion, so please feel free to pop questions in there if we're leaving you out. But the premise, like I said, was we were going to discuss the hookup culture today, and on our series Lucid Dreams with the sex talk. So what's up, Gina? Pay attention. Hi. So this is Tico. So anyways, where were we? So we're talking about the hookup culture. Yes. Where did I leave off? Friends with benefits. Okay. So I'm just kind of starting to touch here, at least from a psychological standpoint, some of the perspectives that people and individuals are experiencing with the culture nowadays. So I left off on friends with benefits. So obviously a friends with benefits is someone that you share a common mutual interest with that ends up leading to the benefits. Okay, so how does friends with benefits happen? Oh. How does that happen? Because, I mean, do you start... Because I want to hear your opinion on it, because then we'll go to that. Okay. No. So one-time friends with benefits, to me, is a totally different dynamic, okay? It is. So friends with benefits is some dude that I either have a friend with that I accidentally ended up in bed with. And I would say that that's, like, kind of the thing. It's like somebody that you end up hanging out with and things kind of progress to that, but you never had any intention of having a relationship with them, and that's a friend with benefits. Definitely. Okay, so you're talking about hookup as in one night stand thing? That's hookup culture? Like, I'm trying to understand. So we're on the same page. That is, you're saying friends with benefits? Yeah, you're saying friends with benefits, but then you're saying it's only a one-time deal. Well, my definition's a little different. Well, there's definitely times, I agree with your definition. Mm-hmm. I agree wholeheartedly with it. There's definitely times where you have that one-time hookup, and then that hookup just happens to be good and becomes a second time and a third time and a fourth time, and next thing you know, you guys are good friends. You're in a situationship, you mean? Yeah, fuck you mean? Situationship. My God. So, yeah, however, it ends up developing into a little more than what was originally expected. So it could come out of previous friendships. I definitely see it coming and developing into friendships where you find out you have mutual things in common, and then it ends up becoming a friends with benefits situation. Or I see it happening through friends of friends.
Okay, so...
Where, kind of like your situation where you ended up with someone that you didn't really maybe necessarily plan to be sleeping with, and then things happen.
Okay, but I have, there's so many little dynamics to this, and I think this is important. So, I don't think... Well, most people, don't they start out dating going like, hey, we're going to get together and have drinks, and then... I kind of feel like people that are friends with benefits, there's always just one element. There's two stories. So there's a little element of some people are the right person, wrong time, wrong place, wrong environment, right? So that's somebody that either, I don't know, like I have a friend who, he's amazing, but he travels and I'm, he's got young children and he doesn't have time and da-da-da-da. It would have been great. And for a period of time, there was, we would get together. And it was just very easy going, right? And it was whatever. But truly, it's mostly, I think you meet someone, you go to date them, and then something shifts and you have this great connection and there's nothing more to it than that. But then I think the other thing that happens that what makes people uncomfortable is what they don't know. Is like, let's say you and I meet and we're trying to figure out where we stand and what's going on. And you're like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm single. I hate the whole idea that people play the whole you're the only player in the game the minute you meet and all of a sudden your past disappears. I don't think that's really realistic, because I always say when you meet someone, there is someone they could call. Yeah. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you say you would or wouldn't, but there is someone on deck that you could call if you wanted to, even if you're ignoring the bat signal from that individual. I think everybody has that opportunity. And I think that what we're doing is not talking about how natural and normal it is to have that in your life. But we all pretend like, oh, no, hi, baby. Oh, it's you, it's me, it's woohoo, right? But then you go around and you have your regular that you're hooking up with and you're like, well, I don't know what's going on with her yet. So I'm still going to do my thing over here. And this girl over here doesn't know that you have this thing going on over here. Or my dude doesn't know. And then this is where jealousy and problems and whatever's going on. But have you not discovered that when you are more open, it's easier?
It is easier when things are open.
And even though it's harder for some people to take that information, at least now you know where they stand. At least you know where their emotions are. At least you're fully disclosed. There's no surprises, right?
Definitely.
And the initial conversation is difficult. Just like for those of you out there that don't talk about the safe sex practices, it's a difficult conversation to have. But once you break the ice, there's plenty of opportunity there, because the first thing that happens with the sex talk, of course, for safety is, the dirty idea. Who's dirty, who's not.
Yeah.
And then that comes with the shame and the blah, blah, blah. Everybody's uncomfortable about
Definitely.
that. But the only way to move forward and to just know that it's a safe game to sign up for is to have that conversation.
Yeah. And that comes also with that friends part of really knowing...
Oh, but how many people are fucking making friends before they're fucking?
Hooking up.
Sorry. You'll be okay.
That hookup culture.
Hook up. Before you're hooking up. My bad. Did your ears bleed? Maybe a little bit. So, how many people are talking before they end up in bed together? Are they having this conversation about what's safe, who they're with, whether we're going to do it again or not, whether this is just a hookup? Are you telling people before you hook up that that's all it is? Is that conversation happening?
I don't think so. I think, especially nowadays, that a lot of that is...
Assumed?
Yeah. It's very applicable information where you're just the implications there that it's just going to happen. It's like, this is just naturally the way things are going to end up playing out. But, however, it doesn't always work like that sometimes. And that's where other problems which you brought up, the whole consent thing, come in, where you deal with drama.
I don't have drama. I don't have drama of my own. How about that? There's other people's drama. She said people are not talking. Sally, give me a thumbs up if I'm allowed to share that story. Hello!
People are definitely not talking.
Okay, so Sally, can I use an example here? She said share! Share. Okay, so can I share an example?
Sure, go ahead.
So remember when you said drama happens?
Yes.
Okay, so, and the people involved are all on here, so we don't have any problem with sharing this because we have already all talked about it.
Yeah.
That's why she gave the holler from the kitchen, please share, because Sally's watching. So I have an example of people not talking about it. That's why she just said people are not talking. So we had all gone out basic story, an individual that was dealing with her and another female showed up. But nobody knew that there were connections between two of the females with this individual. And of course, it made everybody uncomfortable as we were all unpacking who he's with today. Because she didn't know that he was coming to be with this other girl. And the other girl didn't know that he had dealings with her, and we were all in the same environment together. So as we're sitting there a little stunned, it's like, it would have not been a problem for anyone had it been talked about. But why is it such a big deal when, of course, it's the girls that are all the drama, right? We're the ones that are like, oh, here we go again. They're going to flip their shit. It's not, but we want to know because she may have signed up for another round with him, because to me, I'm like, well, if he's knocking it out over there, that must be pretty good. If she's pretty, but I mean, you know, I'm like, oh,
that's a whole different topic.
I can talk about it, but I'm just saying. So to me, I mean, it wouldn't have made anybody uncomfortable if he'd have been like, hey, I just want you to know I got a little history with Sally. Are you cool with that? Or do you need to talk about it? What's the big deal? It would have been no problem, but it kind of shut some things down. It made some people uncomfortable, and it all came down to a simple conversation. So, anyways.
So, what are your opinions on relationship types? So let's talk about, so we have open relationships, we have swingers, we have polyamory. What is your opinion on that in today's society?
What is my opinion on open relationships?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with this. Let's start with polyamory. So polyamory is being in multiple relationships, multiple emotional connections with everyone in consent that it's happening.
And these are committed relationships. So yes. Committed, open
multiple partners,
consented,
multiple lovers consented.
And
just to break it down.
Yeah, so multiple intimate connections.
Yes.
So this would be like the two wives or the two husbands or a quad or whatever.
Yes.
So for those of you that know me, I am a bisexual female. I am poly. So my opinion is only going to come from poly and being bi. It's not going to come from swinger. So my opinion of how it's defined is, I agree with you on that. My opinion is it is probably the biggest stretch, work, and worthy thing you'll ever do, because you really do learn yourself with it. You really have to know what you want, and you have to be completely vulnerable and open.
What's up, Dante?
Because they're going to ask uncomfortable questions.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable questions. And you have to hold you accountable on a level you will never, ever, ever get anywhere else. Because now, if you're dating me and you're dating her, and we do know each other because it's all consent.
It's consent.
There's no surprises. Trust and believe. If you forget to call or check in or whatever, I'm going to hear about it, and I'm going to be like, hey, why didn't you call? It holds you accountable on a higher level, because I'm going to expect you to treat her well. And if you're not treating her well, I'm going to expect that same behavior. So to me, you're required to perform for more than yes. So to me, being open is extremely difficult, because what's true is a lot of people out there are not having conversations about sex to begin with. And I'm talking about what I like, what I don't like, what my boundaries are, what I want more of, what my fan is. There is not even, people aren't even telling each other.
Well, so here's the thing. When was the last time you've had a chat with your partner that says, hey, honey, I really like it when you do bop, bop, bop?
Friday.
All right. See?
And it's not a once a year conversation where we're messing up and then we have like a powwow over it. No. So it's more like, hey, this was not cool for me, or this needs to be better, or whatever. So I'm finding that the more often you have the conversations, and even to where at the end of the day, there's a check-in on how we're doing emotionally. You good? I'm good. But we often hold space
with
to
that
have
sexual conversation.
Yeah, definitely. That's often. But usually the sexual conversation comes like the day after. Especially if it's in an environment where we were put in an uncomfortable situation. We always have like a debriefing, so to speak. And don't wait, because that's got to happen right away.
Well, it's at the top of your head. Yeah, those are some of the exercises that I discuss every so often that you should be having with your partners. It's really that line of communication, and that's something I personally myself work on. I need to work on and I strive to work on is communication
So,
with any and all relationships, specifically because, I mean, you have to be able to maintain that open window. So polyamory.
so wait, I have a question on that.
Yes.
We're going to stick to polyamory right after.
Okay.
But so first, I want to say, like, so you as the coach, that you come in. So let's say I referred my partner to you. And he's going to sign up for Lucid Dreams today. And he's excited, right? But so at what point and how and what steps would you say to my man that to begin that conversation? How would you tell him to set that up? Because a lot of people who aren't having these conversations, it feels like an interrogation or blame. So when the they are already uncomfortable, how do you begin? Like, what would you tell them to do?
So really, and with this exercise, it's actually pretty simple. It's just kind of a simple icebreaker. As uncomfortable as it may be, that's probably the best time to have it. So when you're just doing dishes and the music's playing and it's dead quiet, boom, pop the question. I mean, it's really that simple as saying, hey, so about last night, and you know, you want to lead into it. I really enjoyed myself. I liked it when you did bop, bop, bop. Or I noticed that, and sometimes this may have to happen right after that immediate debriefing where you guys just finish up and you're like, wow, I really enjoyed it when you bop, bop, bop. Or is there, I noticed that you were kind of getting turned on when I bop, bop, bop.
Okay.
So it's really just... It's a practice that we start to develop where you take these questions and you get them off your chest immediately.
So would you say that not just, I mean, would you recommend somebody talk about both the good and the bad? It's like, hey, you know, we were really wound up and kind of lost you there. So, I mean, you got to have both. I mean, so if,
Yes.
first of all, are you going to tell them to go right out and balls out, just say, hey, yo, you messed up, you're good, you're bad? We don't want it to be a complaint session, but how do you integrate someone who doesn't talk about sex into the practice of being more comfortable with it? Like,
Well,
where would you start?
You have to start talking about yourself. So that's what I feel like I've noticed with the polyamory is that you have to know yourself, and you mentioned it very well. Mm-hmm. So you keep it about yourself, your own personal happiness. So your partner, if they're there, they're going to want to support you. So you go through the things that make you happy, that you liked, you didn't like, because it really is about that form of communication. So your partner, as long as you're not coming off aggressive or offensive and just kind of keeping it to yourself, it's going to be easier.
So what if you can't get across the barrier of being uncomfortable? So like your other person is already not getting enough sex, or they're not getting quality sex. So how do you bring up the subject so you don't hurt their feelings further and drive them away? That's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know. There's some people out there that are on this level. This is huge. This is where I hope it's all going, is that people are having these conversations on a Sunday afternoon at 2:00.
Feelings are going to have to be taken with a grain of salt because it's not about you, it's about the other person.
Right. Okay.
So
you just got to be bold with it.
Exactly. It really, and it's not
because
even really...
it's where the chips lie anyways, right? So you want it, I mean, no matter how it lays, it's going to come out.
Yeah.
Eventually.
But the thing to realize is to stay positive with it, mm-hmm. and realize you can rearrange those chips any way you want once they're out.
Yeah, I guess so.
So if you don't like the way they look when they fall, understand that the whole point of tossing them is for the point of changing them. Mm-hmm. So open relationships, polyamory, being involved in multiple committed relationships, emotional, with the consent of everyone knowing about it. So swingers. Let's talk about the swingers. Now, swingers are individuals who participate.
I call it recreational sex.
It is. It's it's a sport.
Sport.
We'll say. Yes.
It's recreational sex.
Yes. So, and yeah, it has its benefits. It's fun. So some of the things with swingers,
some people go bowling on Friday, and some people go to the swing club.
It really just is as simple as that. they
They do.
They
They
do.
There's a
They
culture.
do.
So
It's a
listen,
culture.
as a paramedic, it really didn't happen like as a paramedic, but I kind of got invited to help be an ambassador for some takeover cruises and properties where they totally do a whole takeover like a convention. And my whole world was open because I will tell you the honest truth is my expectation and what I thought I had in my head, an idea of what I would see, what I would experience, what I would be. I always thought I would be pressured. I thought it would be a complete continual orgy. And it's really not. These are just a place where people want to be free to talk about being open, have an opportunity to explore that without looking like they're crazy. The environment was a lot of nudists, but the biggest thing that I learned is swingers are demographically the happiest couples. I'm talking 5 events. I went to 5 cruises and Naughty in New Orleans once, and there's no fighting. They talk about everything. If there's a conflict, it's done. You don't hear about it again and nobody's uncomfortable. But there's also more than one flavor. Some people do this, some people do that. And that's where I learned the best lesson of all.
Yeah.
I'm cool right where I'm at. You know what I mean? That's there if I want it. Right?
Yeah. And you're right. That is the thing about swingers.
Yeah.
So swingers, they're in the committed relationship with their one partner. However they choose to have, it's not really, it is extramarital sex. However, it's done within consent of the partner.
Or in front of.
Yeah, or in front of.
Ooh.
Or not in front of.
With permission.
With permission, depending on the couple. Now, swingers.
Not all swingers do everything. Now, that's a big one for me. I thought that it was a free-for-all. For a long time, I really had it in my head that they were indiscriminate. Okay, so, and then, of course, the comments from work. I remember one time I took some time off because it was my first cruise in 2014, and I took some time off, and my boss says, well, I didn't really have time to give a medic off if you were going to go work. And I'm like, no. I went to this swing thing. He's like, okay, I don't want to know. Right? so I kind of thought it was indiscriminate. And of course, he went on my Facebook and he goes, I saw this cruise. But people, I really thought it was just like whatever, free for all.
No,
but
it's not.
And the first question that people ask is like, aren't you signing up for an STD? Because assuming there's so much sex going on that you must therefore have the end result of A plus B equals STD.
Yeah.
Okay. But you and I both know there's a couple industries as well as this demographic that are probably the ones that are talking the most about safe sex.
Definitely. And that's the thing with swingers is the majority of them have their own set of rules. Hey, what's up, Karen? You can put your 2 cents in here, Karen. A lot of swingers have their own set of rules. And that's part of that consent that I keep bringing up within their relationship that allows for that stability. Now, Karma did mention that they're happy. And that's because with that open relationship, in order to be able to keep that bond nice and strong, the line of communication has to be there because they have to stay on the same page. So also with that also does go on the other hand to say that just because one person is interested in one thing, that doesn't mean someone else is not interested in another. So with that consent comes those boundaries. And with those boundaries, that's what you're going to notice as a really key difference, in swinging and polyamory is that line of boundaries that occur. So swingers...
So there's no boundaries in polyamory?
No, there's boundaries within each individual relationship. However, you're now dealing with 2 people and a population in regards to multiple intimate relationships.
So I will say that in my experience, there are boundaries that are very different for each couple. So I've heard that kissing's not allowed.
Definitely.
I've heard the orgasm's not allowed. I've heard that girls are only allowed or only one dude with this rule. So I think that the bigger, the more beautiful ones. I mean, I can't say that swingers aren't great because swingers are amazing, but it's the poly people that fascinate me. Because they are not only just saying, I'm going to share my body. They're all about being open and vulnerable about their emotions. And that's like, that totally floors me at how beautiful and loving they can be. One of my favorite couples, they're a quad now. They started out as swingers. They ended up hanging out together, literally bought houses on the same street from one another and had a master bedroom in each home. Right? So I actually saw them at the pool and I told them thank you. Because that, like, just, and here's the thing is they're not all together now, but every time I speak to any one of the four, they always talk about the other couple and the most amazing and loving and kind, and I miss them, and they're wonderful and I love them. And I'm always just like, wow, that's what I want in my life. I just want strong, loving, committed, friendly relationships. And even if there wasn't sex with them, I would want more of that, Definitely. So the poly people are hands down to anybody that can do that. It's just, you got to really get yourself out of the way. And compersion, that word compersion literally means I am happy when my loved one is happy.
Definitely.
No matter what they're doing and who they're doing it with.
So you mentioned with swingers, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about... Oh, we did want to talk about open relationships and problems too. We don't have to go there, but the point being, if you guys have any questions, I would really love to hear some feedback.
So you're right, Karen. Communication is extraordinarily successful to these relationships. Karma did mention before that a lot of these people, like I said again, are very vocal with their communication with their partners, which allows for that intense bond that you can have while watching your partner have sex with someone else. So
in both directions. It'll make you uncomfortable and excited at the same time.
Exactly.
I think there's a little both. It's a little terrifying to think someone could do it better and off they go. They won't be back.
Exactly. Yeah. So swingers. Any other general open relationships? Now, as far as
we're not talking about. So here's something that's important to know.
Go ahead.
Is that poly and swinging have, even though they're separated by demographic, poly can still occur within any orientation. So LGBTQ still plays in these dynamics as well. So these are relationship types. However, swing community plays pretty much with straight couples. No, they play with bi, but it's a little bit of everything. But I would say that poly and open applies across the board. So let's not just say that's for married straight couples, because this big time is poly's a big deal in all human relationships.
It is. So speaking of swinging, all right. So hey, what's up, Jill? I came across a few different situations recently where I had this one couple and they were going through some issues. They were swingers, so they had a much more open relationship. And one of the partners ended up adding someone else into the relationship. And what I ended up noticing was that she and her ended up leaving the relationship in general, which I found to be pretty interesting. However, it also does go further to show that you definitely tend to see yourself in a lot of these relationships, is what I'm seeing. That you find yourself really, really, really quickly as far as your own personal references and your own orientation.
You find yourself.
Yeah,
I would agree. Well, even if you don't find yourself, you find out damn quick that this isn't what you want. Definitely. If you are not okay, and that's the thing that I tell people all the time. I get the should question as a coach. Should I this? Should I that? Should. And I always say, first of all, it's not my job to should on you, because you have to pay ultimate consequences for any choice that you do make. But I can make recommendations for best practice. But should you get in a situation where you don't like it, you can always change your mind and talk about it later, right? So exploring is one thing, but don't make yourself do something you don't want to do. And if there's boundaries, speak up. So don't do it because you think you should to help the relationship. Just because you say you want an open relationship and I don't. Well, bitch, I don't want an open relationship right now. For whatever reason. No means no, right?
Definitely.
Are you guys out there?
Hey, what's up? So I would like to kind of talk about some of the aspects of the open relationship swinger lifestyle where it's really about the emotions. And that's going to be the biggest thing, is that when emotions and lines get crossed, That's where some of the catches and the struggles tend to happen in those kind of relationships. That goes back to the boundaries that individuals set. And with those,
So how do lines get crossed?
so lines get crossed when emotions get out of touch. It seems it's a very touchy situation. Some of the biggest aspects and keys that I see happen are the disconnect from the original relationship with a lot.
So the first relationship. So we're the what do we call that in poly? We call that
the primary relationship.
is it primary? Meta. That's right. There's some damn terminology for this shit. There's a whole list of words that I've discovered, but meta. So I would be the metamor, the main lover. You would be the metamor. Para or Mara, but whatever. There's stupid words for all this stuff. But anyways, so the original two.
Yep, the husband and wife.
So what happened here?
Let's say another woman enters the situation.
And everybody's cool.
Yeah, everyone's cool. And with
so this wasn't a surprise. Kind of fair.
No.
Okay.
No. And then the disconnect occurs between the husband and wife when that third party decides to come in. So what I've noticed about a lot with swinging relationships is that they do vary in style. So you have some women that prefer to play and not the husbands, and husbands prefer to play and not the women's cuckolding.
I have totally seen. Now, I know that a lot of dudes are visual, and I always thought like the threesome thing and women. But I am totally fascinated by the amount of dudes that are out there like, yeah, my wife has way too much sex drive, so I take her out on the weekends. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
what?
It's very relevant.
It's huge. Like,
It's
I
relevant.
had no idea. I was like, you know what? That's awesome. He must love the shit out of her.
He does.
He has to.
Because it's not about him, it's about her.
It's beautiful. One of my favorite couples was a lady that came into town from like Idaho or something with her husband. He was getting his PhD or whatever. And his best friend moved in and he had gone through a divorce, and he was like, listen, I don't have time to take her out. I see you guys are getting along great. He would take her to the movies and dinner, and they would do shit on the weekends. And he said, listen, if there's chemistry there, I want to see you two explore that, because I just don't have time to give her that right now. And I am enjoying watching you two's friendship. So it ended up being this beautiful triad, and they went everywhere together, and they were interested zero in the lifestyle, but that was the only place they could go to be open about their triad without judgment. And they didn't often play together as a threesome.
No.
If at all. I never heard a story like that from them. But what I heard was, she's like, I just like being able to bring my boyfriend around with my husband and not have judgment. And people be asking if I was paid for the weekend. Because she's beautiful, stunning. But there is every demographic you can think of. And you know what the coolest thing about that is? It kind of made me realize that I used to think I was being too strict and stuffy, because I wanted things this way or that way. And it's not necessary to match anyone else's template. You can have it any way you want to design it.
Yeah.
Any way you want to design it. And I mean it. Every time I thought there was something, I figured it all out. There was some new shit. I'm like, oh, wow, there's that. As well. Are you guys having fun? Or do we have any questions from you guys? Because we can do this all day. So there were some other topics that we wanted to talk about. I can't remember.
There are a few other topics. What did we write down? Where's our notes? We're getting notes. We wrote down plenty of things to talk about on this topic. That all came from other people.
So, yeah, because these were some of the questions that we talked about. And so we decided that because we were able to talk about these things, we're going to teach you guys what it looks like.
So is there really, and I need to know up front, is there really such thing as too much or too little sex?
Oh yeah, we did decide we wanted to talk about that. So,
because this kind of, go ahead.
Oh, good.
This kind of blends into the general opening topic of what I figured out to be a lot of, we'll say, fluid sexual relationships. Is one partner either needs a lot more and can't provide it, or another partner needs significantly less and is less interested, and someone else needs to take care of. So
wait, hold on. So are you telling me that sometimes polyamory is someone is not satisfied, because at that point you're leaving someone out?
I'm not saying necessarily that they're not satisfied sexually, but they could not be by that one particular person if their relationship is more than sex. Maybe that person doesn't captivate their mind the way their body does.
Well, and also I kind of look at it like this. In my experiences with others, I am completely in love with my man.
Yep.
He's delicious. He's my favorite flavors, my favorite everything, right? But it doesn't mean that he's my Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't want pie or a good salad every now and then.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
There's that song, Trick Daddy's Sugar. Where he says, old Southern boys like a slice of pie after the main course. Georgia peaches are ripe for eating. But, it's true. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't like the individual that you're with, but we all thrive on variety, Definitely. And there is a story in that book, More Than Two, where they talk about your needs getting met and jealousy Definitely. Really being only you not getting your needs met. But I am in a poly group where we had some discussion, and they had said, I says, well, how is it that you go about jealousy and handling jealousy? And he delivered this perfectly, and he used the food analogy. He goes, if I took you and my partner out, and I gave you guys both a menu, and it had everything you can imagine on it, from dessert to sushi to steak, anything you wanted, and you could order anything you wanted and as much of it on that menu. He said, at that point, what does it matter what they're ordering off the menu? It's the same menu. You're just picking different items. So they're not getting any less or any more. They're only designing what they want from what's in front of them. So you design what you want from each individual. It doesn't take away from what their needs are.
No, it doesn't.
And it doesn't, my plate is full and you're sitting right next to me. She's sitting over there having her plate, and they have nothing to do with one another, but we're all involved. So nobody's getting left out.
And see, that's probably where a lot of the, I wouldn't say taboo, but the stigma that polyamory gets, and open relationships.
I get called greedy all the time.
It's maybe not necessarily selfishness is what I hear a lot.
It's the most selfless, the most selfless practice that you can ever do is polyamory. Oh, you're never going to get it all right. You're going to mess up. You're going to mess up, I promise. I've had people mess up in relationship with me before, just because I was most hurt that I didn't get told. Yeah. I was most hurt that I didn't have. I was literally across the street getting my nails done, and Honey was across the street, and my girlfriend had come over, and they said, well, we're studying. And I said, okay. And then I got after pictures. I'm like, shh. I would have waited on my pedicure and been home in 5 minutes just to see. But I kind of also was hurt. My feelings were hurt that I wasn't told, hey, we're thinking this might go down. I would have been excited to hear it, but my feelings were really hurt that I wasn't told. They didn't have to sneak. And I was upset because I felt like you could have just said something. And it makes you look bad when you try to sneak.
And that's it looks terrible. The biggest thing is
it ruins trust.
Where is the communication and the trust in the relationship? So if you feel like that's something you need to do, it's something you talk to your partner about. And that's either the too much or too little thing is what I end up seeing as kind of some of the bigger
So do you think that people go out to swing because they're not getting enough? You think that's the only reason people become polyamorous?
Well, it's maybe not getting enough, but maybe not enough of the experience. Maybe they need that sexual experience. There are some people that are...
Right.
Yes.
So my experiences with all this came because I had been coming out
as Shay.
Super committed, I never had that opportunity. I was having kids at 20.
Yeah.
Right. So I never had that opportunity. So exploration for me was the goal, not because I was trying to replace the individual that I had. There was experiences I had never had the opportunity to have. So to me, it was never about looking for another niche, like the too much, too little thing. So are we talking time frame too much, too little, or like how much in a week, how much in a day, how many times?
Well,
or quality?
Well, I feel like the biggest thing starts with the too much, too little is when sex and your intimacy kind of gets stale. So that's kind of the start of the whole, I've noticed the swinger aspect of it, is that variety. And when it comes to that variety, is it not enough of the good stuff? So it's not enough good sex, or just not enough sex in general.
So what if it's just a time thing? You work nights, she works days.
Well, then that's something that is...
So that's a not enough time thing.
That could be a not enough time thing.
Okay. So a lot of times, so what's for guys out there? So tell me what your number is.
Hold on 1 second. So what do we have, Shay?
So all sex has to be planned.
No, all sex doesn't have to be planned.
Please God, I do not want it all.
Aaron,
I wouldn't mind having a planned session, but yeah, no.
It doesn't necessarily need to be planned. However, it doesn't. Things need to be accepted more naturally, and that comes with that communication. So it's really about taking the baby steps. Where it's, as you said, I mean, you needed to explore, so you have to vocalize that with somebody else, and when you do vocalize that, you know, that communication gets across, and then you end up getting those needs taken care of. The too much, too little, I think it is really more of quality and experience.
Oh, I was just going to go there. So I'm going to say that I feel like my number would be higher, but when it's quality, I'm much more grounded. It's intimate, you know what I mean? So I don't think I could be happy going to do the party thing very much because it doesn't satisfy me on that level. So I'm sapiosexual. I absolutely need connection before I can explore. And I will say this, though. This is something that's huge. I have been in swing environments for years, since like 2012. And very, very rarely will I step into that and enjoy it. But now that I have a committed partner that has me feeling safe and comfortable, I find my mind thinking about those scenarios a little differently, about how having that safety. And a spotter in the gym. So you got somebody in the gym. I have triggers, right? Like that past trauma stuff we were talking about. I have triggers. I have limits. I have things in my past that I'm not quite past over or through. And so I'm like, I just want you to keep an eye out for certain things that would make me like, I'm not so sure. So that's your job, right? That's your job as my partner, or his job as my partner, to be like, yeah, we're cool on that. She's over here. But I'm seeing that I have that solid relationship where we can talk about it. Now I can be like, hey, there's a thing I want to try, you know? Whereas before I was never in that place. So in order to explore, swinging and polyamory, it starts with a strong foundation. But if you can't do that, if you can't do that with your individual that you have, you're not going to be able to integrate, invite, or play with others without being able to have that strong core of communication.
Because everyone needs to be on the same page, and that's some of the biggest things, or the biggest thing is that line of communication,
disclosure,
and
you
the
can't
consent.
Just
you
say
have
what
to
you want to share.
Exactly. It has to be everything.
Yes.
So with that comes emotions as well. So I'm feeling uncomfortable in this situation, honey. You know, I'm not really digging it. Do you mind if we kind of just move on to the next thing? Some of these situations and conversations happen.
Okay. So what if you have somebody that's just not comfortable talking?
Maybe they're comfortable when they're naked.
Having this conversation? That's a vulnerable thing to ask. Oh, that's a vulnerable thing to ask somebody is when you're naked, that's pretty vulnerable. You really got to get naked, like emotionally naked.
Naked.
I have a difficult time being questioned when I'm naked. That would not work. If you were to ask me questions when I was naked, I'd be like, let me cover up and cry.
It's not the questions, it's how the questions come across.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that's one of the biggest things that I've mentioned earlier in our discussion here, where how you approach that situation in this conversation is almost more important than what's said. It's
okay, so there's 1,000. I'm like the coach is hearing 1,000 ways you can have that conversation. So
exactly.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So we're talking about hookup culture, guys. Just because it comes up. There's some things I want to talk about on that, if we can branch out in a second.
Okay, let's branch.
But I do have a question on that. So you were talking about hookup culture.
Yes.
So I find that there is a huge disconnect, let's just say that word twice, disconnect between the culture and what people are doing to one another. Because you're saying that there's no feelings involved. And I am going to tell you, as the psychic, yeah, you better tuck your shit. So here's what's true. I do not... Shoot me if you want to. I don't care, anybody. So here's the thing. I don't think it's possible to have a hookup with someone more than one or two times without having feelings. I don't care what anybody says. Feelings are involved. And those of you that are running around saying that there aren't are full of shit. You can have kind, loving, friendly feelings towards someone, but feelings are involved. And people run around saying like catch feelings and I'm sick of that shit. There's nothing wrong with having love and affection and friendship for someone that you're sleeping with, or to pretend like that person isn't important in your life.
To what level are those feelings though?
It doesn't matter, any at all, but we try to shut them off like they don't exist at all.
Oh, they exist.
You know what I mean? And no, I'm telling you,
The
people like, as
feelings
soon as she
exist.
catches, don't ask me any questions. Don't, you know what? So let's talk about the negative aspect of the culture and why everybody's shutting down, okay? So the girls out there are going to agree, okay? So here's what's true. Is guys run around all the time and they give you a little bit of attention, hi baby, cute, and then they disappear and they ghost, right? They get what they want and then they ghost. But then they call at 11 o'clock at night and they want to hook up. We know exactly what's happening. You just want me as a hookup. But that doesn't mean we can't have a conversation, you know, during the daytime and have a friendship. But they're too afraid that you're going to think it's going to be a relationship, and they don't give us enough credit for being on the same page. Okay, but guys treat you like baby this and baby that just to get what they want. But we can't just totally dismiss the friendship.
Does it happen the other way around too?
That girls try to get all in your pocket and freak the fuck out? Yeah.
Well, not even that. Where they just call whenever they need some.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You are a chicken shit.
Yeah. What about
We
that?
call those a pickup line.
Yeah.
In my girls group.
There's
that's
some
what
other
we call
boys'
it.
names that you can give it.
Oh, fuckboy?
Yeah.
That's not my term. You guys call each other that.
So, yeah, there are emotions involved, but I believe it's only to an extent.
So you mean to tell me
They just don't feel
guys
like
have as many emotions as girls do?
They do.
Okay.
But what I'm saying, it's only to an extent as far as the whole communication throughout the day.
Okay, true. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have to talk to me all day, every day. But do not ever think that you're going to text me at 11 o'clock at night and haven't talked to me in 2 days talking about what are you doing. I will fuck you up on that shit. You know what I'm saying?
That happens both ways.
No, I know it is. Okay,
directions.
so I'm saying in general as people, okay, I'm sorry if girls treated you like the little fuckboy. It's all good. People do it to me too. But, you know, I'm not going to, you know, feel like I want to give any more trust to that individual if they can't stay connected as a human being. Okay? But
Definitely.
maybe that's just some upper level shit, and a lot of these guys try to play that game. Even my best friend pulls that on me. He'll be out partying and it'll be 11 o'clock. What are you doing? Oh, no. If you weren't trying to kick it with me earlier, yeah, don't text me about what are we doing later. Like,
What's up, Julia?
on that. Hi, there's my girl. Hi, pretty girl. Are you a good kisser? She wants to know, are you a good kisser? How important is kissing was a question that came up, but that's some other shit. So
That is some other shit.
yeah, it's some other shit. So somebody was asking about, no, like literally she was asking, she's referencing a conversation we had about somebody asking about whether kissing was important to a relationship and the act of sex. And whether just like the whole boundaries thing, when we talked about some items are okay on the list, some items are not, depending on what that individual's boundaries are, because to some people, kissing is more intimate than the act of sex.
It is.
So that's what she was saying here. You know, I mean, I know she's joking, but still, some people feel like you can do this item with an individual, but if you cross that line and you kiss her like that, like kissing is okay, but you can't just like be affectionate with her like normal. Like, normal. We got to shut all that shit down. How dare you?
And that comes with the boundaries. So,
Yeah,
like a lot of
boundaries.
the swingers, they have boundaries because these boundaries help set up emotional barricades more than anything.
I think it's just a
To
safety net for now.
to protect their partners.
Yeah.
And then that's part of that communication. You can't have that safety net without that line of communication to know it's there. And that's the biggest thing.
Right.
So where were we?
We were on too much or too little. Are we talking about time frames? Are men generally a little more greedy, or do they need more, or do they have more drive? Do women have more drive? Like, I don't know. I know women my age have a tendency to have a little more. I don't know. There's a little bit of across the board, but what is the question? Too much or too little? Are you guys getting enough out there?
Yeah, is everyone getting enough
Are you
sex?
getting enough sex?
Do you have that conversation with your partner?
That there is enough or not?
Where it's like, hey, I could use some more nookie tonight.
And do you plan it? Are you saying when it's not, like maybe it's a quickie, are you getting too many quickies and not enough sessions? And how important is a session? Like, so this is the conversations that we
What kind of
need to
session
be
does your partner
having.
prefer? Or
what kind of session do they prefer?
Yeah, is that the kind of woman that wants something, 5 minutes, get in and out, handle your business? Or do they need time where I just want to boil the frog, so to say?
Wow. Boil the frog.
Boil the frog.
You said boil the frog.
Everyone knows the story about the frog. You throw a frog in a pot of boiling water, it jumps out. You slowly cook the oven up and turn the heat. That frog's going to sit there. Some people like sex like that. And that's the dynamic you need to have these conversations with. Is it too much or too little?
Okay, so I would say, for me, I absolutely feel like I need it every day. I do. It's on my mind. It's like going on, right? It's the first thing in the morning that I text, baby. Hey, baby.
As far as thinking about sex, women think about sex just as much as men do.
Lord have mercy. For those of you that aren't in my women's group, we need to talk about that.
They think about sex, if not almost more.
Okay, I have a question. So do you think men talk about sex in detail more, or do women?
It depends on who
other.
with. To each other.
So do men... Hi, Orlando. Holy shit. Hi.
Hey, what's up,
Do you guys talk about sex in detail, and in what ways? So tell me a story about a woman and how you would tell it to a dude. Can you do that right now?
Tell you a story
let's
about
say,
a woman and how I would to a guy?
Yeah, so let's say you pick a person, for example, in your head.
I think this is probably going to be one of those depends on the person kind of responses.
Okay, so
I'm short and sweet.
I don't really... You and your dudes don't talk about sex in detail. And should that be happening?
Not really.
Should that be happening? Do you think it would benefit the community as men for men to be talking about sex? And I'm not talking about sexcapades. I'm not talking about hate, which is going to happen.
Actually talking about sex from multiple different levels, emotional, physical, psychological, yes. I think it should happen. As far as sex when I'm talking, hey, what's up, Liz? Cuzzo. Javon, jump in this. I need to hear from you. So, sex. Should men be talking about sex amongst each other more often? Start typing.
And not the sexcapades, and not we went to a strip club, and not that, oh my God.
Just like, hey, you know what? I, found out, I see, that's the thing. I don't know what.
I found out. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example.
Okay, give me an example.
Jesus
Here we go.
Christ, why are you making it so hard? So, let's say, for example, she's like, let's just use us as an example. We're a couple.
Okay.
So, I come to you and I'm like, baby, I want to try something. And I tell you something weird. I don't know. Maybe I want a threesome with another dude.
Okay.
Maybe there's some toys I haven't explored. Maybe, karma for me, for example. I want to get into that tantric kundalini stuff, that breathing technique stuff. So let's say I want to that's on my plate right now. So I want to go for that. I want to go for energy exchange. I want to go for breathing technique and yoga. Okay. So, and you're absorbing it and you're trying to think whatever. And there's Orlando who just popped up on our live, or your buddy, Javi, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Are you going to have that conversation? Would you say yo, I'm not sure how to process this, or can you believe, or so I want to hear what you would say. Do you guys break that out?
So I don't think guys really break down as far as the
But I'm not saying breaking confidentiality on your girl. I'm just saying,
As far as the mechanism of sex itself, I believe psychologically within the male, it's an ego thing where it's not, I'm gonna, kind of give you my hints and tips, even though there's a lot of guys that should listen to other guys when they talk, but they don't because it's an ego trip thing. However, I do feel like that I would eventually, if I had the right person that I knew, be like, hey, you're into this tantric shit, yo, what's the deal?
Right. Okay.
I personally would be okay with it, and I feel like if, and I'm a firm believer of education, the more men start to educate themselves as far as their own body and the female body, the results should follow. So
they're not. So you're telling me you guys are not having these conversations with each other?
Oh, we don't. No, especially if you're in a relationship. Nah.
So do you feel like
unless you're in with some of those people that can have that conversation?
So unless you're around swinger and poly people, you would probably be easier for you to talk to them than just your regular bro.
Probably.
Okay, that's fair. But so you're still telling me these conversations aren't happening?
They're not happening.
Okay, fair enough.
They really aren't.
So we feel like you guys aren't listening too. Girls talk about this shit a
So
lot.
do women talk, do girls talk with their other girls about like straight up like sex? Or is it just the act of leading up, which is the psychology behind?
No.
Okay.
I have a women's group called Karma's Bitches. And it's exclusive and secret and private. No one can search for it. No one knows it exists. No one knows who's in it and what the content is. But we do have these breakout conversations, and they're in a safe environment. And we talk about dick appointment. Like, I had this opportunity, right?
So let me cut you off here really quick.
Sure.
So we're going to get Karma's Bitches.
Yeah!
So, Javon, good point. So men essentially don't get talked about a lot. Like what feels good to us instead, it's just, a meat kind of thing.
So are you saying we...
And he brings up a very, very valid point.
You feel like me?
So if...
He's meat.
If you're talking to probably one of the fellas, I'm going to guess to say it would only be concerned with a significant other or someone that you have some kind of emotion to. Maybe you're going to get that conversation then. Other than that, he brings up a very good point. So psychologically, men were just built for the concept of survival and reproduction. And with that, everything that goes with reproduction is just sex.
Okay.
So naturally, it's built into our genetics through millions of years to go ahead and try to reproduce with as much as we can so that our genealogical heritage can say, hey, we are the fittest survivor. So when he talks about it's a meat kind of thing, it makes sense. And this is a very valid point.
Okay.
Guys aren't going to talk about their hookup chick. I'm not going to talk about my side piece to another dude.
So what if you and your side piece is doing so much more shit than you and your main chick? Just because they're wired different.
Well, see, and that's the thing.
I'm not talking about side chick. We're talking about open, poly, different dynamics. So we don't play that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, and I'm talking about from an open perspective, where it's going to be more of a practice round, kind of like a sparring session. With your side piece, then you go to your main chick.
Side piece, you know what?
Your other partner.
Watch your mouth. And that's the fucking problem. I'm sorry. Do you know how often? No. We're breaking on this shit right now. I'm sorry.
I know where you're going, but I'm talking.
All right, so here's what's true. I got it.
Direct.
I'm gonna be direct too. Here's what's true. That side piece bullshit, that little drop in that word all the time. We gotta stop normalizing that shit. We are all valuable within these relationships, no matter how the dynamic is set up. So when we say side piece, when we say, side dude or whatever, I hate that shit. Because what's true is we're all in relationship with people. Now, whether the dynamic is a committed relationship or whether it's just an occasional thing and we're all disclosed, cool. Side piece stuff, that needs to stop.
So would you call that side dude a polyamorous relationship?
Yeah,
then?
It would be.
Because if you're saying there's emotion involved.
There is a difference between casual sex and occasional sex. Casual sex is disconnected. It's using someone else as a commodity. It's the side piece. No, you don't get any conversation. You don't get any acknowledgement. You have acknowledgement with someone who is occasional sex. I don't do casual, okay? I must have connection first. So I'm totally demisexual on that, right? So side piece is just, someone that we use and abuse. I don't like it.
So I see a side piece, and this is my mindset on the whole relationship thing when it comes to some of that stuff, is that
I don't know, am I out of pocket with saying it that way, guys? Like, let me hear from you.
No, I mean,
I just want to hear from them.
That's right. You're right. Exactly.
I'm not trying to be right. I'm just saying my opinion.
Your opinion is very much so valid, and it's very much so empirical.
I just want to change that culture.
So,
one by one.
But that culture is also what we're talking about. It's the hookup culture.
It's
where there is no occasional sex. It's casual sex. So as a guy, a guy's not going to go be like, hey,
so casual
I hooked up with this chick, and I'm going to, go tell the homies, I just destroyed it. I tore it apart. That may be the extent of that conversation because it's a casual sex conversation. It's a casual partner.
So you can't.
If you don't have that conversation with your spouse, then...
Okay, so you can't say the same conversation about your spouse, how you knocked it out on Friday. You're only going to talk about a side piece like that?
Well, and...
You're only going to talk about the side chick and how you can knock that out, but my little queen over here, we can't ever let it be known that she likes it banged out on a Friday with 10 guys.
And then that comes part of that company that you're talking to.
Yeah, but you can have this conversation and put your side piece on blast for being knocked out, but you can't... I'm just saying the difference between how people talk about different dynamics with respect or without respect. I'm talking about the side piece label being a little more sorry.
Risque?
No, just I don't know. We trash talk those people more and we dismiss them a little.
Okay, so we're not going to trash talk. We're going to remove all the trash talk verbiage.
Sorry.
We're going to remove the trash talk verbiage, and we're going to get to the back onto the topic of what you're asking is that if you're dating some chick and just having some regular sex, you might talk about, to the fellas about it. However, you're going to keep the intimacy and the emotion concealed because you're a man and you have trouble talking about your emotions.
So I think men need to speak about emotions and girls need to talk about sex more. We meet in the middle there.
You know what? If that were to happen, you'd be surprised when you read my ebook. You'll see that I talk about that. Men need to talk about their emotions.
So men need to talk about... So I'm just saying these conversations aren't happening. So would you be that guy if somebody came to you and said, like, bro, I need to have a question?
Yeah.
Are you going to be that guy? Okay, so you guys have questions. I want you to reach out to my buddy Tico. Okay, good. So you got to be aware that now that you're opening this platform, people are going to come to you.
Yeah.
And I want them to. So I want to see these conversations happening. I know that in my women's group, we do talk about it. Karma's bitches. But you got to go through me to get there. So you got to be vetted. But anyways, so as we talk about these things, we aren't just talking. I mean, you would not you wouldn't even be, I don't know. There are a lot of things we discover about each other because we're open. We create that space to talk about our failures, to talk about our successes, to talk about where our feelings are on it and whether we're having a good time. And it takes a lot of bravery for women to break some of those stigmas because as we were talking about in episode 1, cross your legs, cover yourself, watch your mouth, don't want too much, don't ask for too much, don't ask for anything.
That's stigma society placed on women.
As she's saying, he.
Aaron's saying that
that's what should happen between you and your partner.
Yeah, the intimate,
instead of your homie.
Yeah, and those intimate conversations. But that's a guy, and that's going back to that we need to be more emotional. Women just need to start thinking with. So I don't think.
So I'm agreeing that you should have that conversation between you and your partner. But what we are saying is normalizing things to such a way that when you feel like you need advice, you have a touchstone and be like, hey, this is happening. And we're not saying throw somebody under the bus. And it's true. I don't want you throwing anybody under the bus and being like, she fucked up or he messed up or whatever.
Yeah, you don't know.
What we're talking about is normalizing sex and everybody acting like it's a big taboo, right? Because, is it being talked about? And I don't think it's a big deal to be talking about it.
No.
It's a normal function. If you sneeze and I said bless you, it should be just as normal of how was Friday night with Vanessa or whoever.
Oh, it was pretty good. We had a good time. We did this, and this. It's kind of freaky.
But holy crap, have you ever tried this? Because this is what we do.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
I think the line of communication with the hookup culture itself is kind of putting the mask on it, where it has this inward stigma of being wrong. Where if people did communicate, where you did say like, hey, yo, I really did hook up with this chick, it was awesome, yada, yada, etc., that it wouldn't be necessarily so frowned upon, but more importantly, when that word is spread, the education that gets around to it, maybe guys might be a little more, emotionally in cue with their partners.
Mm-hmm. Karma's bitches. Yeah, I created a little group for some women to have a very, very safe environment to have any kind of conversation about this stuff that they want, or any subject really. But I do... I'm saying man becoming more emotional or connected and women being more physical. You know what? That's actually true, Aaron. So what we were just talking about was if men became a little more emotional and women became a little more exploratory. Because here's what I learned is when my man started asking me for pictures, and I was like, no, I'm not sending you those pictures. Like, this was when I was first divorced, and like 6 years ago. And I am not like trying to send pictures, but in order to do that, I explored a little bit and send pictures. But then when I started to recognize what he liked to look at, I started to like floss a little bit, like, oh, he thinks this is cute. So for me, like sending him pictures was not like a big deal. But then I started to recognize that he enjoyed that. And I started to feel a little more myself, so I'm thinking that like what Aaron's saying is if women would branch out and be a little bit more naked, literally, being a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Exploratory?
Yeah, explorative, whatever. And so, and I think if men would recognize their emotions a little more.
And I write about this, and it's not just recognizing, it's not as much as just recognizing, but it's more of recognizing and implying it towards the woman. A woman will, when you're in a comfort zone, you can experience some things. You can say this exactly as you were saying. You have someone that has your back.
Yeah, he does.
When you know that someone's there for you emotionally, mentally, psychologically as a man, when you're there for your woman on all three of those platforms, gentlemen, you can have what you want. The problem is you have to understand that you have to give that. And you have to be solid about it and actually show up when you need to show up in order to get that. And that's kind of the catch-22 with the whole society and how women need to close their legs.
Yeah, you expect... So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. So there's still a little bit of culture that... And like Travis and I had that conversation during one of our lives because we were talking about the dating in 2019, Heart and Steel. Yeah. So... he said, I don't want to know. I don't want to know where she's been or what she's been up to. And I said, so a year from now, I'm dating an ex. We're dating and I run into an ex-girlfriend and I say, well, that's my ex-girlfriend. And now you're like, well, what the fuck? Now I'm finding out that you're bi and you have this super Christian background. So you're now uncomfortable, but you weren't fully disclosed, right? Yeah. So, but like I said, we have a lot more to overcome because we're taught as kids, cover yourself, cross your legs, watch your mouth. And by God, don't you ever say you have a want or a need. It's all about you. It's all about the male, right? Hi, baby.
And then it builds into fear.
So we have, and he says, I want women to be like more physical, but you have to create a safe space for us to be that wild person and no judgment. I don't want to hear later that I was dressed like a slut when you asked me to dress risque. Be like, but you could also say, like, watch your environment, like, hey, we'll dress like that, XYZ. But it takes a lot of safety for women to come out of their shell. And you guys got to be honest with us, or, you know what I'm saying? Or we're not going to do it.
It does. It does. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to go ahead and provide that platform that a woman would be able to go ahead and lose inhibitions on in order for it to happen. And I feel like society kind of dampens males a little bit and kind of looks down on them and frowns them for not being so masculine and going against the genetics of your makeup, in essence, where it's go ahead and reproduce with everything.
You keep going back to that science.
Because I'm very Freudian, and I super believe that everyone's pushed by either motivated by survival or sex, and that's what it comes down to.
So
very Freudian about it, and I'll hold to it because you can relate everything there.
Okay, so you're Freudian. Got it.
I am.
All right, so what's our next deal? Ooh, so let's talk about what we're bringing to the table next time. So
yes.
I know this is interesting and fun and everything, but when Tico goes through his program and you go into his coaching, he takes a full holistic approach. And I say holistic as in the whole entire being of the individual. So there's psychology.
Yeah.
There's coaching. There's like literal breathing techniques from what I understand.
Yeah.
Well, do I have an opportunity to play with this stuff? Like, you're going to give it to me so I can show him?
Yeah.
All right. I want this program so we can take a look at it. So one of the topics we were going to bring up, and it's not as fun as this one, but it's what your fridge says about your sex life. Like what your physique and your fridge and your habits have to do and how they show up in your sex life. Are we going to bring up fetishes, shame, guilt, past, fun, exploring, like any of that?
Yeah, definitely. I am really looking forward to touching the fetish topic. So we're definitely going to go ahead and go and
we'll do that a late night
a
one.
lot of detail on that one. And that will probably be one of our late night shows.
So we're going to do that one with a list. Bring a list. Okay. Oh, wow. Are we going to talk about yours?
My what?
Your fetishes. Or is this just going to be fetish list in general?
It's going to be a fetish list in general.
Oh, you chicken shit. All right. So anyways, we also wanted to bring up in future shows for you guys was we wanted to talk about like past relationships and trauma on how that affects your behavior in your next. I wanted to bring up whether size matters because my honey said something about size and blah, blah, blah. We had these huge conversations about it back and forth over the years, right? But I have an opinion on size.
Size does not matter.
I don't think it does.
It doesn't. Trust me, you can be hung like a horse, not know how to use your tool, and trust me, you're just as useless as a horse.
I would say that the people that had the bigger size were the least involved partners because they felt like their item showed up and did the work. Or their item was the reason for showing up.
Don't have the complete package.
No. And they just showed up and it was like, dun, 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 you know, and they seemed like, all right, we'll get into that later because I have something to say about that. So, how to have the breakup conversation.
Oh.
We had that one. And then, so we went over consent, this one, and then size matters. And how to seal the deal. But yeah, a lot of this stuff we're going to be talking about later. You guys are kind of quiet, but I was told that you guys are just fascinated with what we're having to say.
Thank you, Liz.
Size
does not matter. Quality
does. Or quantity.
Oh, yeah, see? Too much or too little.
So, anyways, I'm Karma Steele, and for those of you guys on my YouTube channel, I would encourage you to subscribe because you'll get your weekly tarot reading on there, plus some other items that have to do with divine masculine and divine feminine. For those of you that are on my channel, that's why I'm bringing Tico on here, because I do support every thing he has to do with this topic, because as a woman that's coaching women out of the sexual traumas or abuse, which is part of one of my missions, I feel that it's important to support men that are bringing other men into the forefront of the next wave of what is required to stepping into their divine masculinity. And I think that it's important for me not to ignore that and that work. And I think it's a really big deal. And I support you in that, and I'm proud of you. And
quality does matter.
I think it is important. So in supporting you in that, I am bringing you on my channel here. For those of you that have any questions for Tico, his email and all of his social media links are present there for you to look into. I had to start this live twice, so I will make sure that they're in there for you. Okay? I am Karma Steele. If you guys are looking for me, you know where to find me. Karma on Deck. So your website is
Lucid Dream for All.
Lucid Dreams for All.
Lucid Dream for All. You can find me on Instagram, Lucid Dream for All, Facebook, Lucid Dream for All. Website www.luciddreamforall, and to email me, it's luciddreamcourse@gmail.com.
Right?
Yes.
So subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll put the links in there for you guys when we're done.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel.
We'll link them up for you guys if you're interested, but I promise there's going to be more of this. We're trying to get this knocked out so when I'm in Florida, we can make sure we do this remotely because we want to continue this. We got at least 6 weeks of material. I would encourage you to email either one of us for any questions. As a life coach, this is some of the stuff that I work on for the past things to kind of get some of these women on this level and to get past some of the stuff that has happened, because for me, most of it is all like abuse coaching and getting women at least comfortable with themselves, their bodies, and their past. But I'm proud of you for doing this, and I want to thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, guys.
So, till next time.
Deuces.